Listen up.
We can't have thousands of people coming in who may have this problem, the coronavirus. So we're going to see what happens, but we did shut it down.
Much remains unknown about this deadly contagion, including how it is transmitted. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar today said that's why American authorities are taking every precaution in order to protect the American people.
We don't know what we don't know at this point, and it's very important that we not rule things out at this stage. So we've seen some asymptomatic transmission. That's people who are not respirating, they're not coughing, they don't have fever, able to transmit. And that's why we need to keep taking prudent measures to protect the American public while we learn more about this virus.
Joining us tonight is Dr. Anthony Fauci. He is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, a member of President Trump's coronavirus task force. Doctor, good of you to be with us. We have seen the number of deaths rise. We have seen the number of cases rise. There doesn't seem to be any slowdown. Your thoughts on where we are and what we're seeing?
Well, it's exactly as you said, Lou. The cases are still continuing to accelerate. So as we have been discussing all along, we're not seeing any turnaround about that. It's still on the uptick and the upscale as the cases continue to accelerate. We have now 3 additional cases in the United States. 9 of them are travel related, namely they were individuals who were infected in Wuhan in China and came to the United States, and 2 of the 11 are 2 of the close contacts of some of these individuals who came over. Fortunately, the system here of identification, isolation, and contact tracing seems to be working because we have not seen any sustained transmission. Hopefully that never occurs, but we certainly are on the sharp lookout for that. At the same time, as we see now, the actions that have been taken to try and curtail or contain some of the input into the country of infected individuals, namely some of the travel restrictions.
And that screening goes on. Do you believe that we're in a better position in terms of more effective screening, or is it much too early to even think about that?
Well, I think we are in a better position, certainly, to prevent or certainly dramatically lessen the likelihood that someone who is infected with this coronavirus will enter the country. And that's a combination of a couple of things going on. Number one, the Chinese themselves are curtailing transit out of a large number of people. They have about 55 million people who are essentially in lockdown, not having the capability of flying out by train, by ferry. And in addition, the airlines have cut down on their flights out of China. And the system we have now of some travel restrictions, together with enhanced screening by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, we now have 11 designated airports where there is enhanced screening. So I would imagine that this is having an effect in keeping a lid on things, and hopefully we can continue to do that until this dies down some. But as we mentioned in the beginning of the discussion, there's no indication yet at this point that things are turning around. It's still accelerating.
Well, let's turn to the CDC teams that we have wanted to move into Wuhan, into China. I'm told that has not, the Chinese have not accepted that offer on our part. I don't know where we are with the World Health Organization teams. Are they now in China working?
Well, Lou, again, I think there is some misinformation about that. The CDC, NIH, our people would be going over there under the auspices of the WHO. We have, in fact, submitted our people that we feel would be appropriate there. The WHO right now is in the process of trying to get the WHO team in there, and we would be part of a invitation by the WHO. So there's no indication that I've heard that anyone has refused anything, that's for sure.
But inversely, no one has gotten in yet.
To my knowledge, not yet, but I think that the process is really a movement now to get there.
Well, that's improvement. Your thoughts for those watching and listening to your voice right now as to what they should expect, what we should, in fact, be doing to lessen any possibility of this thing spreading.
Well, there's what the individual American citizen can do, and it's what health officials can do. You and I have just discussed in a pretty good discussion here about what the officials can do from a public health standpoint of preventing entry into individuals who are infected, et cetera, et cetera. The individual person, the American person, the man and woman and child in the street, what they should be doing is focusing on the fact that we are still in the middle of an influenza season. Influenza can be very serious. There have already been about 10,000 deaths this year, with over 100,000 hospitalizations. The things you do to protect yourself against influenza are really low-tech, common sense things. Washing your hands, avoiding crowds in which a lot of people are coughing and sneezing. Those are the kind of things that we do. Pure hygiene things. I mean, I cannot overestimate the importance of doing things such as washing your hands as frequently as you can and avoiding crowded places. Because if, in fact, there is coronavirus that enters the country and you get exposed to it, those same things that prevent you as an individual from getting influenza would protect you and help you not to get the coronavirus.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, thank you so much. In these uncertain times, your clarity and your knowledge of great help to us all. Thanks so much.
Good to be with you, Luke.
Thank you. Dr. Anthony Fauci. Well, as the Trump administration is fighting the coronavirus outbreak on every front, the president's legal team and the House impeachment managers today wrapped up their closing arguments in the radical Dems impeachment farce. Attorneys for the president arguing that the Democratic House managers failed to prove their case, and it's up to senators now to do the right thing for the president.
For the sake of the Constitution, for the sake of the office of the president, this body must stand as a steady bulwark against this reckless and dangerous proposition.
That you must vote to acquit the president. At the end of the day, this is an effort to overturn the results of one election and to try to interfere in the coming election that begins today in Iowa.
Senators are currently speaking for up to 10 minutes each on the Senate floor. I know that's going to drive some excitement in your heart until Wednesday's final vote. Senator Joe Manchin, you see there today, he said he's undecided on how he will vote, but he did have just a brilliant idea as ostensibly a friend of the president. Actually, he wants to censure the president now. By the way, this is Joe Manchin. I don't even know what we should describe him as. Perhaps, no, we better not. We'll have a contest on the appropriate adjectives for Manchin here later. Up next, Senator Lindsey Graham making more promises about the so-called whistleblower, but will he ever follow through? What does he do when he promises investigations? We'll test his record. We'll also be talking with Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. Also, he's discovered some very troubling elements to the national voter rolls and Mexico's latest plans to stop caravans from making their way north toward the southern border. It's working. We'll take that up with Acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf. He joins us right after this quick break. Stay with us.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But not for your client.
Looks like the coronavirus is getting worse. Said there was over 20,000 and over 500 dead. In other words, it's gotten worse. Look at this. This is just incredible. talking about that. I ain't talking about that. I ain't talking about him. I know he bumped into something.
To over
Let's go back and hear what the president said.
Which is a very positive thing. We've offered China help, but we can't have thousands of people coming in who may have this problem, the coronavirus. So we're going to see what happens, but we did shut it down.
Much remains unknown about this deadly contagion, including how it is transmitted. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar today said that's why American authorities are taking every precaution in order to protect the American people.
We don't know what we don't know at this point, and it's very important that we not rule things out at this stage. So we've seen some asymptomatic transmission. That's people who are not respirating, they're not coughing, they don't have fever, able to transmit. And that's why we need to keep taking prudent measures to protect the American public while we learn more.
So what are those prudent measures, other than washing your hands, other than not getting around a big group of people? What are those prudent measures? What if this thing does wind up evolving and spreading like it is over in China? Then what do we do then? That's my question. Do we try to hunker down and limit the fatalities, the mortality rate? Is that what we do? In the meantime, we got all these people spread out over here. It's got all these car payments and house payments and hospital payments and all these other medical problems. What do we do? What do we do if the worst case scenario happens? Prudent measures, which involves what? It should involve prayer and getting ready to walk off into eternity. Because if this was to even halfway get as bad as what it is right now from what I'm seeing over in China, a lot of those people over there, they very well be doomed, physically speaking. That's the reason why somebody needs to be over there ministering and witnessing to them, that if they can't find refuge and hope in this lifetime, maybe they can find refuge and hope in the lifetime to come. There has to be some sort of comforting during the time of a crisis of this magnitude. There has to be some sort of humanitarian comforting whenever you know that the inedible is fixing to occur, towards giving people a sense of hope. Even whenever I was down in the lower part of Mississippi working the Katrina damage and hearing anywhere from 10 to 30 shots a day, knowing good and well that probably every shot that I heard was either a suicide or an attempted suicide. In addition to the people that was swallowing pills and ain't no telling what else that they was doing to one another towards ending their lives because of the occurrence that happened. And working in a toxic, sick environment like that, there's really not much that you can do other than to offer people a sense of hope, spiritually speaking, after this life in the life to come. And that's where the ministry, that's where the Word of God really takes on a completely different measure towards a different meaning whenever you have a crisis of this magnitude. Because like I said, a lot of those people have reached despair, have reached a point of no return. And if there's ever been a time that somebody needed to lead them to the Lord, spiritually speaking, lead them to the Lord in faith towards believing in God's Son, it is today. It is now, involving the people over in China. Because that has almost just within the past 2 to 3 weeks reached the point of how bad it is with the humanitarian crisis over in Syria and other places over there towards Africa and places. We are reaching a very, very pivotal point in humanity, in the history of humanity, that I really don't know, other than looking at the scriptures and saying, well, this is what you said was going to occur in these last days, that there would be great sorrows in the last days, great sorrows that would fall upon the humanity in ways such as man could not even imagine. Great sorrows. Humongous sorrows. Horrendous. Very, very horrendous. Lord God, please, Lord, send somebody to witness to those people, that their souls will be spared. That'll be all that I have to film today. I've never seen so much activity going on in the world. If it ain't one hiccup, if it ain't one problem, it's another problem. If it ain't that problem, it's another event. If it ain't that event, it's another uprising. If it ain't that, it's protesters, people shooting, killing, starving, babies not having mothers, illegal immigrants, homeless people here in America, bad politics pertaining to corruptness. Good luck to all of us. Shalom.